We've got the Harley Davidson 48. Now, this is not a fully stock bike, we've got a few accessories on it. It has an engine converter, which probably means that it has been rebored. I guess we'll find out what happens when you add 170cc to an already big 1200cc V-twin.
I fell and lost to the war, shot me dead. I was lost and I said to the voices in my head, I'm gonna get up again. I'm gonna get up to another day. I'm not giving up again. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get up again. I'm gonna get up to another day. I'm not giving up again.
Just taking baby steps here, and it's mostly due to the sitting position. Where are my foot pegs? Oh, there they are. Found them. Anyways, if you ride sport bikes or naked bikes, you know we have rear set foot pegs, and this is the exact opposite to that. Instead of putting your legs bent and all the way back, you stretch them up all the way forward, much like sitting on a recliner, but your back is like in a sport bike position. It's very unique. I can't explain it without showing you. Top of the body is in a sport bike sort of riding position, but the bottom of the body is on these, I guess they call recumbent foot pegs. I'm not really sure, and you know it takes a little while to get adjusted to, but as we are making this progress, I'm slowly getting adjusted to that. The best way of curing anything is to try to go a little faster and just let the bike balance itself. It's a very stable bike, that I'll give it. The CG feels very low down. I'm not sure, but I'm just expecting that out of the riding position. It is a heavy bike, there is no doubt about this, and cruising is a breeze. Now, there are a few things that I need to address. The first thing is that, you know, these are called roadsters, and I wasn't really aware of this type of a motorcycle, and I wasn't knowing much about this when I jumped onto this bike. Usually I do a little bit of research before jumping on. This got a lot of accessories on the motorcycle, like fuel cover. This is also an accessory because the bike usually comes with something which can be easily taken off. It doesn't have a lock and key system, so owner had to buy this separately. I think that's ridiculous. They should have been providing it right when you purchase the bike. We all know that Harley accessories are extremely overpriced. There is no other way of putting it. The owner has spent a lot of money onto the upgrades. I think they run into thousands of dollars. The biggest upgrade being the engine upgrade kit, the big bore kit which I was talking about. What they've done is they've added 170cc to it, and make no mistake, this is not a slow bike. This is a pretty fast bike, and the moment you open the acceleration, you can feel that it's got a lot of power. Maybe not so powerful as your Japanese inline fours. This does pack a lot of punch. I mean, I wasn't expecting that out of a cruiser, but then again, it's not a cruiser. Like I was saying, this is a roadster. If you're not sure what that means, basically it's a crossbreed between a cafe racer and a cruiser. And it feels exactly like that. It's definitely got the upper body lean position of a cafe racer, though it doesn't have the clip-on handlebars, but the handlebar is very small and it is lower set down, much like the Street 750. But there was when I was riding the Street 750 last year, I didn't like its braking system. I mean, there was definitely a lack of stopping power. Now this is a bigger, heavier Harley, so one of my earlier concern was that what if this bike also has bad brakes. I'm glad to say that it doesn't have any braking problem. The front brake, you know, it's a little hard to operate. It's not like your sport bike's two-finger braking system. It takes a little bit more effort, but it does work very well. There's a lot of bite, initial bite, and after that there's this nice progressive feel to it. So this is one of the modern Harleys. You know, the owner was telling me that it has ABS. I was pretty happy to hear that. The bad section. Not my best area to ride such a big, you know, this is the first time I've come into a motorcycle with expectations, and all of those expectations seem to have gone wrong. I was expecting a plush ride with a nice soft suspension setup, but it's got the worst and hardest suspension, much like my Duke 390. It was just jumping over those potholes and bumps. I just couldn't believe that they've put such a suspension on a cruiser. But this is not a cruiser. I have to keep reminding myself that it is sort of a cafe racer crossbreed, which brings me to say, let's see how the cornering is. And I'll just try to focus. Alright, it seems like the bike does hold its line pretty well, but it's an effort to get this bike into the corner. It doesn't want to steer very easily into it. Again, a stark contrast with the Street 750, which was very flickable. Compared to this is a heavy bike and you can feel the weight in its corners. Not a bike aimed for cornering. Even if it's called a Sportster or a Roadster, it's not really a cornering centric bike. It's got a very little lean angle. It is probably the hardest bike to lean with that I've ever ridden in my riding career. I like to cruise on one hand sometimes, but this bike, you know, the front end suspension is so hard that it's jumping up and down, and that's because of the highway. I mean, the highway, it is looking smooth, but sometimes it has this huge bumps. That is because of the bridge. We are sort of on a bridge, and those expansion joints are really rocking the bike. It's not the best feeling because the front end is heavy, and you know, with the feet all the way up front, my butt is taking all of that vibration directly into it, because it's not a vibration, there's just the bump. Usually I can put some of that through the foot pegs or stand on the foot pegs. Here I have no option but to take it. Speaking of vibrations though, Harleys, you know, a lot of people talk about Harleys having vibrations, and on this bike, yes, there are vibrations, a lot more than the Street 750, but I'll be honest with you, this is more like a rhythmic vibration. This is not like a very high frequency. The frequency of the vibration is low, and even when I'm doing 100 kilometers per hour speed, I can live with it. I mean, I'm wearing full leather gauntlets from Dainese. These are Druids D1 if anyone's interested. They filter out a lot of vibration, I know that. My boots are the same way. But I think Harley has done a good job at keeping the vibrations away from the rider. I'm sure that they have done some good rubber mountings, because the engine is vibrating. I can feel that. I saw the exhaust, it was vibrating, like a lot of vibration on the exhaust. But on the rider's contact points like the seat, the handlebar, the foot pegs, it doesn't really vibrate all that much, which means good job to Harley. Of course you can feel the rhythmic vibrations all through it, but it's not the sort of vibration that will tire you out within half an hour. The long trips on this bike will be quite impossible. But speaking on long trips, I was looking at this small fuel tank, and it is a very puny tank. Forgetting the name, what they call it, but there is a certain name for it, and it has somewhere around 8 liters of fuel tank capacity. Combine that with Harley's 9 to 10 kilometers per liter mileage, which makes this bike around 80 kilometers per refuel, which is an absolutely horrible sort of range for any motorcycle. I guess this is not meant for long tours. I'm not sure which turn we're supposed to take. You know, the bike has a lot of go, but the reason I'm not riding that fast today is because I'm not used to this riding position. And I'm not saying it's bad. Once you get used to it, it's actually pretty comfortable. The suspension, on the other hand, is not so comfortable. And the bike, I cannot flick it like I can flick other bikes. So if there's something in front of me, I have to brake down. I cannot just flick to the other lane quickly. Oh yeah, it's nice to be, you know, on bikes and getting some recognition from locals. This keeps happening. I've seen you know, people really like us and support us, and this is India. We are bike crazy nation, and specifically, you know, after you leave the city, it's more often that we get thumbs up and we get people asking to shake our hands and they want to know about our bikes. I really enjoy that part. Sometimes, you know, it gets a little intrusive. They ask us a lot of questioning, but you know, it's part of the package. Big truck coming in. Anyways, not a big deal. You know, highways in India is not the most safe thing, but this sort of 6-lane highway, I've got a lot of room to maneuver. You know, when you start pulling, you realize the mammoth torque that this bike produces. I don't know the figures. I'm guessing it to be around 140 Newton meters or maybe more. It's so strong. I mean, you can attach a sedan back of this bike and it'll still pull. Usually, I've never felt such strong torque, and the bike has a lot of power. I mean, I wasn't expecting that out of a Harley, but maybe because of the big bore kit or something like that. But anyways, it's around that 1200cc V-twin, right? Of course, an engine that big will have power, so don't think that Harleys are powerless bikes. Of course, when you compare it to a Japanese inline 4, they have a lot less power. But, you know, get onto a bike, open the throttle, it will surprise you. And puttering around in city, not really the best thing. Air cooling on this bike probably does heat up a lot. So, you know, I think that more than anything, this bike is more for enjoying the ride, for shorter rides. You know, it's more like your iconic motorcycle. It's not your primary bike. I would never recommend anyone to buy this bike if this was the only bike they owned. For a second bike, for a bike that you want to take to the cafes, do short fun rides on it, like today we were on a couple of 100 kilometers ride, it really works well. I'd have to conclude the short first ride impressions here. I had a lot of fun, you know, even though I wouldn't say this is a practical motorcycle. I had a lot of fun, and I'd conclude it on that note. And this place looks a nice place for cinematics, so that is why I stopped here. Thanks for watching, and I hope you really enjoyed this video, and we'll see you very soon. This is Rahul. Goodbye.